What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Colin Thompson Show. It is our bye week here in Carolina, and we have a special guest joining us today, Jansen. How you doing today, buddy?
Good, bud. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you back on the show. Before we get to JJ, though, I want to talk about all our sponsors here at Not For Long Media briefly. Thank you to all our friends at the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. The best fudge in the world, made fresh at the Jersey Shore, the saltwater taffy. Check them out. It's the holiday season. Have to ship some people some fudge. Fudgekitchens.com. Wealth Advisory Services. If you don't know them, you should. WealthAdvisoryServices.com. Paul and their team have helped me buy houses, set up 401k, make the right investments, have some sort of a conversation with JJ, who's extremely smart financially. So wealthadvisoryservices.com. Check them out. They do a fantastic job. Guys, GEEK promo code Colin Thompson to get money off your tickets to games. Promo code Colin Thompson, COLINTHOMPSON if you're going to a game. Som Sleep, promo code Colin to get that money off that amazing Som Sleep. JJ, do you use Som Sleep?
Only the night before games.
Isn't that stuff good though?
So I figured out now it's about a 30 to 40 minutes for me. So I actually get one right out of the cooler in our cafeteria, chug it there, and then as I slowly work my way up, by the time I'm in bed, like I'm out. So it's great.
It's great. I think the best thing for me is it forces me to know like that shot clock's going off.
Yep.
And of course I could push through it. We could push through and stay up for an hour if you wanted to. But the shot clock's going, it's time for bed.
That's right.
That's why I love it, because I will watch another episode. I will keep going, enjoying the life of doing nothing instead of I need to go to bed and get ready for tomorrow.
Right.
Our final sponsor here at Not For Long Media is our friends at Amiche, the best Italian food in the Charlotte area, up at the lake. It is the best. We got to take JJ there. Amiche, the best Italian food in the Charlotte area. Shout out to our friends at Actions Over Words Apparel.com. So we banged out all the sponsors right there. We love and we're very thankful for you. JJ Jansen comes on the show today, everybody. I appreciate everybody joining us live today at 10:15 Eastern time. It is the bye week. Had to have JJ on. JJ last week ties the record in Carolina Panthers franchise history for 221 straight NFL games. Unbelievable stat. JJ, when you started your career, did you think you'd get to 20 games? How about 221?
No, in fact, my very first regular season game was at home versus the Eagles. John Dornbos was the snapper. He came and had some really kind words for me at midfield. About an hour and a half before the game, all the specialists get together and we're just kind of talking at midfield, which is very strange coming out of college where, everyone stays separate. Nobody talks to anybody. And that's one of my favorite parts of NFL game day is the 6 specialists all come together and we're all buddies. And then we go to our separate teams and we try to go win a game. But John came and said some really kind words, told me how much I was going to love the league. But I remember that whole week praying I could get to Sunday, because I knew that my week 1 salary was $8,000. And I knew that I had a 4-month lease on a house that was $2,000 a month. So it was $8,000. So I was like, if I play 1 week in the NFL and I make it, and as you know, once Wednesday or Tuesday at 4 hits, you're on the roster for the week. I said, at least I'm not going to come out in the red in my NFL experience. So I thought just get through the first week of my career, and that was all I was hoping for.
I still think that way, JJ, especially an undrafted player like yourself. I and again, my career's not been yours, but I keep every jersey because I told myself, like, that's the coolest thing to me. Like you're talking about like the camaraderie before the game. Like I swapped jerseys with you. Like to me, that's like the trophies I want to show my kids. Not like, hey, we won. It's like, here are my friends, and I'm so blessed to play in this league with so many great men. So I've kept every jersey. I mean, I was inactive against the COVID year. I was inactive against Vegas their first year. Jason went and ran by me, and I couldn't speak. That was the first time I've been shell shocked in my career. I never thought I would be. I was shocked for him. I've always wanted to be like him, watch his film. So I digress. I was inactive for the game. I didn't make the roster at a training camp. I signed a couple days later. We only had 2 tight ends active for that game, Chris Manhertz and Ian Thomas.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I'm ever active, I'm keeping my jersey. And then I was active the last 15 games of the year. And then I think I was active for 13 or 14 last year. So I've kept every single one. That means the world to me. So there's a lot to digest here. Okay, so 221. You're tied with John Casey. We go to Seattle after the bye week. God willing, you will break that record. What does John Casey mean to you and your family?
John is one of the most impactful people in my life, most impactful person ever in my professional career. And then on a personal level, John, his wife, Laura, they have 4 kids. They mentored us when we first got here. We had been engaged, just got married in 2009 when we got here. And more than the football stuff, which was, again, my whole career is due to the 2 years of mentorship I had on the football field with him. But it's been 14 years now of doing life together. Laura and I, my Laura, we always say his Laura and my Laura, we both are married to Laura's. We've always said in our family, like, we wanted to have 4 kids because we saw what their family looks like with 4 kids. And we're like, that's cool. That's fun. I just have a tremendous amount of respect for him, not only who he was as a player, but more importantly, as a husband and a father. He's been a mentor to me in all kinds of ways, spiritually, emotionally, physically. We compare notes every off season and training tactics and all this stuff because the life of a specialist is a little bit different. And so he and his family have been so important to us. So like, in 2 weeks, we go to Seattle and I'll break the record again, God willing. But like, the tying of it was really the more important day for me. Like, I'd be perfectly happy, like, being done with all of this. Tying it was so cool because of who he is to me. Had it been somebody else, I think I wouldn't have cared about tying it and wanted to break it. Because it's him, I wanted to tie it, and the breaking of it doesn't have nearly the same sort of emotional attachment for me.
Well, I will say this, and I have one more question for you, and then we'll have our first special guest come on. I please don't get hurt, JJ. Now, the special guest doesn't want you to either, but then I'd have to snap in the game, and then we have a real problem on our hands. Now, I will go in there and I will grip it and rip it, and I will put it on the money. Now, can I do it multiple times? No, I'm as good as I once was. I'm good once as I ever was. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Please don't get hurt. I really don't want to snap in Seattle next week.
John used to tell me, this was my first preseason game with the Panthers. We were in New York. I go running off. I had been hurt the year before on a punt. I snap the ball, go running down the field, and the punt returner jukes me, and I kind of flop around on the ground or whatever. And John's sitting there right at the sideline. He's kind of bringing me in with one finger's toes right on the line. He said, let's be very clear. You have 3 jobs. You are to deliver a great snap, you are to protect the punter, and you are to not get hurt. And I said, okay. And he goes, did you hear anything about making a tackle in any of those 3 priorities? I said, nope. He said, your job is to stay healthy. You are the only one here. So I do my very best to not take any unnecessary shots if I don't need to, because there's always another snap to come.
Yes, there is. Okay, last question for me before our special guest comes on. How is it the league? Well, the league's changing. That's a whole nother conversation. We'll be here for 4 hours, you and I. But how has the long snapping, kicking, punting game changed, primarily how it pertains to you, since you got in the league until now?
Well, I think the biggest area, at least from the long snapping side, is when I first got in the league, I weighed 252 pounds, and I was one of the lightest guys in the league. The rules were set up that the long snapper was basically treated like an offensive lineman. So you could line up over him, you could hurt him, you could pummel him, you could do all that stuff. There was really no difference between a long snapper and like an offensive center. Now that is totally different. We're really heavily protected. There's no one that can line up on us. So as that has gone on, a couple things have happened. One, snappers are getting lighter. I'm 235 pounds right now, and I'm probably one of the biggest guys in the league. So I was 252 and one of the lightest. Now I'm 235 and I'm one of the biggest. And obviously with time, the skill level is so astronomically high. The snappers are fantastic. The holders are tremendous. We're you and I are playing with who I consider probably the next Hall of Fame punter, and Johnny Hekker. And you just see what he does on a field with the ball, directional punting, distances, all that stuff. Like when I got in the league on punting, nobody had ever broken the 40-yard net record. Like that was a thing that everybody was chasing. And about the second or third year in the league, I think Johnny might have been the first to break it. So he might have been a first or second year guy. So maybe this was the fifth year in the league. And then Thomas Morstead, another tremendous punter. To me, they're the top two that I've ever seen live. They broke 40. Now the entire league breaks 40. Everybody, if you don't break 40, you've either had some punts blocked or you're not going to be in the league again. So the skill level just keeps going up, up, and up. There's a really interesting stat that they tracked historically field goal kickers. And the number one indicator of how good the field goal kicker was what year did he kick in. Every single year, place kicking gets better and better and better. So, nobody hit 50-yarders when I first got in the league. Like if you hit a 50-yarder, you were like, that's unbelievable. Now we got Justin Tucker, who's the best ever, attempting 67-yarders like it's no big deal, like, and let it rip. And straight as an arrow. And that's 25 kickers in the league probably can hit a ball over 60 in a game. It's unbelievable the amount of talent that's on the field in the specialist world. And I think it makes the game a lot of fun.
That's a great answer and a very JJ Jansen answer. This is a guy coming on here that knows you well, has represented you well, and has worked with you for a long time now. This is Warren Schmidt from ProStar Sports, a great friend of mine, one of the best agents in the business. Warren, thanks for joining us.
Colin, thanks for having me on. And JJ, it was great to listen to all that. And I'm going to give a shout out, obviously, to Paul Sheehy, our lead dog, with the agency, and John Baker. And we call it the ProStar family. And JJ and Colin have been part of the ProStar family for a long time. And I was fortunate enough to be at JJ's first game.
Yep.
As JJ said before, I was kind of in the green room listening. But JJ's first year, he got hurt with the Packers, so he had his redshirt year in the NFL. We were hoping the Packers would just cut him at the end of the year, but they knew they had value there, even though they liked their young guy that they kept, and they ended up trading JJ to Carolina for a conditional draft pick. So all of a sudden, JJ's now up not only against another long snapper, but against, hey, we need to. If we keep JJ, we're going to lose a draft pick. And that was probably one of the best draft picks that the Panthers ever lost for keeping JJ Jansen. But getting back to that first game, I was sitting there with Rick Jansen, and we're looking there, and I'm like, I go, Rick, this is his biggest snap, his first snap. This is his biggest one. If he's money with this, we're going to have a nice long career. And 221 games later, we're still here.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Now, do you remember anything about that day in particular, JJ?
We got blasted by the Eagles. It was awesome. It was like 38-10. It was ugly. We played three quarterbacks. They booed us off the field. That was the first game after the 2008 playoff loss to the Cardinals, which was also ugly at home. So the fans in Carolina, we got great fans. They did not have any patience for week one getting blasted. Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, that was a bad, bad day. I just remember getting out of it, not having any bad snaps, staying healthy, and going, good enough for me. Unfortunately, as we all know, like in the NFL, it's a team sport, but everyone is so hyper-focused on doing your own job that you can walk out of games just, I did my job, we lost, but I did my job, and I can rest easy at night. Like, I hate saying it that way, but that is absolutely the truth, because you can only control so much. It's such an unbelievably cool sport in that so many different roles. I just remember walking out there going, whew, I made it. All right, on to week two. Thank God. I remember that very vividly.
I think I remember that too as well. Or it's just the fact that I can relate to that too. Is like, I did my job. Is that is the league where college is like, we all lost, we all won. And again, there's team camaraderie in the NFL too, folks. Don't get me wrong. but it's so much different of I got to do my job. I got to do my 1 of 11 and move on. Warren, my last question from you here. And again, really appreciate you joining us. Warren Schmidt, Paul Sheehy, John Baker, Pro Star Sports, all represented Johnny, JJ, myself, Chris Tabor, Tobe, all these great specialists in the league and players in the league. Okay, so can you give us any like behind the scenes stories, Warren, from representing JJ when it comes to maybe a negotiation or how it works in the long snapper industry? Like, what can you give us, Warren? Can you give us any juice, anything that's happened?
Well, so it's the great thing with JJ is there's really no bad juice around, because if you're going to be playing for 220 games, Colin and JJ both know this, the normal career is 3.1 years. That means 3 years and 1 game. JJ's obviously lasted a long time with doing that, and that's obviously playing through injuries, calling us up. And when he did have a couple nicks and bruises, a couple, dings in the head, all these different little things that JJ and Paul and I and John would have communication with to make that educated decision, what's best for JJ and then what's best for the Carolina Panthers. But it would always be what's best for JJ first. And I think that's the biggest thing that agents need to look at when they're representing a player. You got to we take the emotion out of it. And that's why you have an agent. It's an emotional business. It's highs and lows. I remember after JJ's first game, you're right, he had a big sigh of relief. This is before 4 kids. He actually had a couple beers with us afterwards with some Carolina fans and Eagle fans at a bar right outside the stadium. And it was probably the best tasting beer ever. And I don't even know what it was, but it was just that big relief. Like I made it through my first game. But there's so many things with highs and lows. JJ at the beginning of his career, just being a minimum player. Then JJ going to the Pro Bowl, JJ going to the Super Bowl. And then, trying to make him the highest paid long snapper. And then what do we tell JJ after we have done the deal? Okay, after the next deal, you're going to be the second highest paid long snapper, because we always want guys to beat that next number. So I think that's a big thing with agents that they take the emotion out of it. We've gone through it with Hekker. We've gone through it even with bringing Tabor to Carolina. And, you see what he's done with that special teams unit. And, you have the buy-in. Tabor will get the buy-in with the specialists there and this whole special teams unit. So we're very fortunate to represent good dudes who are also great players. So that always helps the process. But there's, with JJ, what I love about him is when I hear about from other players that are in that locker room about how JJ conducts himself, you can see it after that game. How many times does a long snapper get a ball? Only when they play 221 games. Because if he kicks for a game winner, that game ball is going to the kicker. Now the kicker will say nice things about JJ in the interview, but that ball's going to the kicker.
Long snapper to go get the ball to make sure it ends up back in the kicker's hands.
And that's a good long snapper. Like to get that ball back to a guy. Oh
yeah.
Speaking of
get him the ball.
Now this is going to be, I have to be very professional here because we have 4 people on the screen. I'm going to have to really navigate this. Okay, we just were miraculously joined. Walazi. Boom. Walazi. Tabor blew off the podcast today, by the way, gentlemen. Oh. He said, I got stuff going on. So thing, and that's a fine.
Yeah.
So the great Johnny Hekker, who we've been talking about on this show today, and I'm a Pro Star guy, Carolina Panther, LA Rams, Super Bowl, St. Louis Rams. Johnny, thanks for joining the show.
You guys, I'm here as just a real fan of JJ Jansen. That's why I'm here. I love Not For Long Media, and I love JJ Jansen. You put the two together, and I'm anywhere that you want me to be.
Wow. Look at that. Okay, Warren, we have any Hekker stories that we could tell on the show?
So I have a great Hekker story. So Johnny was referred to us from another Oregon State kid, Joey LaRock. He's like, hey, can you help out, our punter here? He's got really long hair. He's a great dude. I Google him, Oregon State. I go, Joey, he's like 15th or 16th rated. He has a backward punt. It's against the wind. They have him doing all this crazy stuff. I go, but you know what? I've talked to him. He's such a great guy. I definitely want to help him out. And then what happened is, and I think Johnny knows this story, but there was a scout for the St. Louis Rams at the time and this is when you know it's a good scout. He got there early for pregame and saw Johnny warm up. And Johnny's booming him like consistently. And I think the scout asked, Johnny, why don't you do that in the game? He goes, our coach wants me to do this like crazy backward, whatever, so I'm going to do whatever the coach tells me to do. Check one for us about Johnny, about what type of player he is, team guy, whatever the coach wants him to do, he's going to do. So we start representing him. He gets a workout with Bones, John Fossil, down in the Rams. Lights out. They go and they should have drafted him, because by not drafting him, we made him a millionaire after year 2, but they didn't even have. So I'm going to give JJ a trivia question. What rookie specialist would come in with no competition?
Well, I know Johnny didn't have competition.
Johnny, exactly. Johnny had no competition as a rookie through mini camps. They didn't even bring in another veteran to challenge him. That's how good Johnny Hekker is, and has been throughout his career. And he's an even better person than he is a punter.
No,
as you guys know.
You guys, thank you. I appreciate the kind words, but really, I'm just here for JJ.
Let me add. So when Johnny, before he was went through the draft process, he came out to Arizona, and I've been probably whatever that was, 3 or 4 years. John Baker was out there. There was a whole bunch of guys. I remember snapping. There's a couple snappers, a bunch of punters and kickers. What stood out to me about Johnny was he was the only one that wanted to work on holding beyond like anything a kicker needed. But then he wanted to get holds for right footers and left footers, obviously not knowing where he'd end up going, which I was always impressed with, because throughout my career, I had snapped to both righties and lefties. Like it seemed like every 2 years I was flipping back and forth. So I was like very aware. I was like, that's pretty smart. You want to work on left-handed holds too. So his attention to detail was high from the beginning. And that's obviously what Bones and all those guys in St. Louis. Johnny's played in like so many different cities, but he hasn't really changed teams a whole lot. He's like 4 or 5 stadiums in. He's only played for 2 teams.
It's a fun fact that one of our companions had no chance of answering, Eddie Pinheiro. But I will go back to the same Arizona story, because that was the first time I met JJ Jansen. And I met him, and we're sitting and we're talking. I think we went to Oregano's. We went to go get some food after the workout. I was starving, and it comes up, JJ left as a junior to go snap in the NFL, declared early. I was like, that is bold. This guy's super good. And then JJ picked up the tab for our meal, and I just remember thinking like, wow, that's so awesome. And that's something that's always stuck in the back of my mind. And I didn't only have a workout with the Rams. My only private workout that I had coming out was with the Carolina Panthers.
Right. I forgot you.
Ozzy.
And I punted even better for that workout than I did for my pro day. And the guy was an old Wisconsin guy, went and drafted another Wisconsin guy. Water under the bridge at this point, but it's always been a chip on my shoulder. So I'm glad to come back to Carolina and exact my revenge.
The coolest part about the NFL is there is so much that comes down to like divine providence, being in the right spot at the right time. Mm-hmm. Your talent is second to none, but you being paired with Bones was the perfect fit for your talent, what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Fisher and how aggressive on special teams like that. You coming here would have been a blast for me, but you going there was the perfect spot for you.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm here now. That's for sure.
Me too.
Well, Warren, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me on with two class guys, and you're one of the classes too, Colin. So
okay, thank you. I was gonna figure out how you're gonna spin that saying good thing about me too. You're the man.
Hey Colin, so we'll have to get you out for we're going to try to bring that back. We kind of stopped doing it with the COVID, but that was our Pro Star kind of workout for young guys to meet older players that have been in the league. And it's really great for the young guys to see what they need to do. And the older guys to teach kind of the wisdom. And you notice with every game, specialists are a little different. They get out there early. That all 3 guys will get out there early in a game. They always talk to the other team. So they kind of have a bond, just like the special teams coaches have that bond. But we'll have to get you out there since I know you're snapping and you're learning from one of the best be that emergency snapper, Colin.
JJ is fantastic. He tells me to move this, move that. Boom, it's on the money. So,
Warren, hey, you guys enjoy your bye week, man. Thanks for having me on, Colin.
Thanks, Appreciate you, man. Have a great one, Warren. All right, Johnny. A couple surprises for you, JJ. Warren, Woo! Boom. You got JJ.
Oh,
you got Johnny. Excuse me,
oh,
Jimmy.
No, Jimmy. He also called. What did he call me? He called me.
Did he call you Tim once?
No, he called me Tommy.
This is Chris Tabor, by the way. We're talking about the special teams coordinator. Taves, you're going to listen to this. Taves may listen to us. He may not. I hope he doesn't. Foomp. And you know, he's not invited back on the show again. He blew us off. So have a day. Okay. So got the two best players in their position in the NFL on my show. I'm very excited about that. But Hekker's coming on this show today, not to talk about himself, but to talk about the great JJ Jansen, tying the record, 221 games.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to Seattle, God willing, JJ's going to break the record. Johnny?
Yes.
Your thoughts on the great JJ Jansen?
A lot of people can't see this, but in the little sidebar, you get to put out what you want your display name to be in the on the whole deal, webcam deal, and it says I love JJ, just so you know that. So you could have it say your name, but mine just says I love JJ. But yeah, really, I just think you know, I've said it to him, and I've said it to some people who have asked, but just the accomplishment of being the team's all-time like longest tenured player, most games ever played, is such an accomplishment, and you don't earn that if you're not a great dude, a guy that's trustworthy, dependable. Hi, my daughter's trying to break in here. It's okay. But JJ's just been a guy he's given you everything he has. You know, he doesn't hold back information, a helpful tip, you know, a bit of advice that will, you know, help a rookie progress to being a wily vet sooner. He's just a guy that, you know, sticks to his guns, loves his family, loves the Lord, and is who he is. He's unapologetically him, and that's how you last as long as you do in the league. And it's been, you know, God opening doors and closing doors that has kept him with the team, and I think it's for a great purpose and a reason. So he's meant a lot to us, and he's a big reason why my wife and I made the decision to come to Charlotte. And so, you know, we're happy to be here experiencing this kind of alongside with him.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. That's awesome stuff. Johnny, on a football perspective, like if you could deep dive into it a little bit, what makes JJ so good?
What makes JJ good is his consistency. You know, not only with his snaps, but with protection and just his attention to detail. He watches film. He helps break down rush plans of other teams and you know, talks to the PP, communicates at a really high level. His snaps are incredible, but I mean, that's only half of the job. You have to be able to protect, and you have to get out and cover and be an asset in coverage. And that's something that, you know, as crazy as it is to say, it's something he's probably doing at maybe his highest level he has in a long time. He's running fast. He's getting down there. He had 3 tackles in the preseason, I want to say. He got an absolute unit, and you know, he's just doing a good job of taking care of his body, you know, doing the right things, and helping, you know, be an asset to the team. You can't play all these games if you're not healthy and you're not dependable. And JJ Jansen's also built like a Ford truck, so just throw some gas in there and he'll go, baby.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And Johnny, last thing for me here. What's that behind you? Is that a Super Bowl trophy?
Have you heard?
Oh, whoa, that's crazy. How'd that get there?
Did you win? Ding.
That's weird.
That's a fine. You won a Super Bowl. Okay, John. I'm not gonna be like the cliche. Like you turned it away.
Oh, we got some bourbon up there. That's some good stuff.
What type of bourbon you got? What type of bourbon you got?
I got some Jefferson's Ocean. JJ actually put me onto that, so that's the reason why I love JJ Jansen.
Is that the best, JJ? Tell me about it.
That's my favorite. Jefferson, fantastic.
What's your
get him to be a title sponsor of the podcast? I would be on every single episode.
That's okay, right. So yeah, you guys do enjoy a little brown water. Can we give like a top 3 or 4 from each guy? What do you guys like?
JJ, you want to go first? Mine will probably just be exactly what yours is.
So my Jefferson's Ocean. I'm a big
you say we love JJ?
Yeah, JJ.
Oh,
JJ's the best.
How are you?
Woohoo! See Mr. JJ. Mr. JJ's right there. That's Tompy. You say hi, Tompy.
Hi, Tompy.
oh man. You're
right.
coming here live with Johnny's daughter.
You gotta go, Mama. I'll be out in 1 minute, okay? 1 minute.
Wow.
How's
Sorry, we'll be out there in 1 minute. She's just really big fan of JJ. She doesn't want to get off the screen.
Wow. So we're gonna let Johnny go in a second here, but
Yes.
I'll go first, JJ, and then we'll go Johnny.
All
So
right.
Jefferson's Ocean, number one for me. Big fan of Knob Creek, which is probably my second favorite. Laura really likes. My wife likes the smoked, like a maple. Like it's a little sweeter, so that's favorite. Our go-to like celebration. So on Sunday night after I tied the record, we broke out a bottle of Blanton's that we have that I got gifted like 2 years ago. So everyone loves Blanton's. For me, I like Jefferson's Ocean the best, but there is something kind of neat about you having like a bottle that's purely like celebratory. So like over the course of the last 2 years, we've maybe got that out like 3 times. So that's pretty cool. So those would probably be my top 3.
What do you got, John?
Well, I was at JJ's house for Thanksgiving, and I saw the bottle of Blanton's. I almost had a sip, but then it was on the lower end of the bottle, and I was like, you know what? That's too nice of a thing for me to get into. I also love Blanton's. Jefferson's Ocean, I've been put on recently. Huge fan of that stuff. If you can get your hands on anything by Pappy, you gotta esteem that. And then just overall good hitter. This is not really like a really bourbon. It's more of a Canadian whiskey, but I love Crown Apple.
Kind of got a Washington flavor to it there, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. In case you didn't know, I'm from Seattle.
Wow. That's good stuff. Future Hall of Famer, Johnny Hekker.
Love you, JJ. You're the man, buddy. Congratulations.
Big week ahead for Johnny. He's going to get fined for being another hometown hero going back to Seattle.
Right.
So that's worth $10 fine money.
JJ, you got like $10,000 in fines at the game. You had a in-game promo video, and you got hero of the game.
I was hero of the game.
And the owner broke it down and shouted him out. That's another fine.
We went, and I'll say this, whatever the cap was that we put on fines for a week, because Johnny got the same treatment when we went back to LA as a visiting player. So whatever the upper limit of weekly fines is, I'll take that. Whatever we set it for Johnny.
$100?
I'll tell you, one of the most stressful snaps I've ever had is we were on the field to get ready to punt when they played like a minute and a half long drill. We're in the huddle, and the guys were just giving me, a heck of a time in the huddle, giving me a hard. And I just kept remembering, I've got to be really good on this snap because now everybody in the stadium knows exactly who I am. I cannot mess up. I was so nervous.
I hate those. Was it the 2-minute warning? It was a 2-minute warning that we had to go out.
It was a 2-minute warning, so they had the long, 2.5 minute TV break. So it was perfect for them to show like a long video, and we were out on the field. We didn't even I couldn't even hide. I was just head down, pretending I didn't even know what was going on. But Chuba was giving me.
Everyone was giving you a ding.
I was getting. Whatever the max. I hit the max well early into the day. So
awesome. You guys keep around. Love you, boys. See you later.
Yeah. Enjoy your bye. Wow, the great Johnny Hekker.
He's the best.
Warren, surprise. Even Warren was all Johnny was like, oh.
It surprised everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Okay. As we wrap things up here, I have some fun offbeat questions here that I think are really cool. JJ is very well spoken, very well thought, right? For those listening at home, it's no shocker, but JJ and I have great conversations in the sauna. We were right across each other in the locker room. Greg Olsen came and went, and the next Hall of Fame tight end, Colin Thompson. No, I'm kidding. And the next bench warming tight end came right in behind Greg and got in his locker. So right across from JJ. and we've had some great conversations over the years. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about the head coaches you've played for, because there's a lot of really good ones.
Yep.
A lot of really good men. Who are the head coaches you played for in your career? Green Bay, you're there for a little bit.
Yep.
And then maybe a word or two about what they did best or what you enjoyed.
So I'll even go back to the beginning of college, because there's a lot of coaches are obviously so impactful for players. So my first head coach in college was Tyrone Willingham, just an unbelievable man, an incredible gentleman. He was so kind to me. I was a walk-on long snapper, so pretty low on the totem pole. Not playing walk-on long snapper, very, very low on the totem pole. Kind to me. I remember he got fired at the end of the season, and he stayed for like a week in South Bend, like in his office, like meeting with parents and players, everyone that he had like end of season meetings scheduled with. And he stayed, and I mean, he took a meeting with me and my dad. It was just sort of a wrap up. There was nothing special, but and I couldn't do anything for him at that point. And yet he was just such an incredible gentleman. After he got let go, we hired Charlie Weiss. Charlie had been the offensive coordinator for the Patriots in their first 3 Super Bowls, had coached for Parcells, had been a part of a couple of the New York Giants Super Bowls back in the 80s as like a tight ends coach, kind of a look as he was making his way through coaching. One of the most impressive things about him, I mean, he's got all the Belichickian sarcasm, and he had an incredibly foul mouth. I didn't know some of those words could be used in that parts of speech. Like that was a very I was learning a lot about Jersey as Weiss was going off. But he was incredible. He was so good technically in terms of scheme and knowing how to break teams down. Great with X's and O's. And I just always thought it was fantastic watching him. He just really defended the players. No player ever got thrown under the bus, like in a media situation. Like, now he'd yell at us behind closed doors, but really protected us really well. And you see that in New England, right? Like Belichick, I mean, you hear the stories from behind closed doors, like he's ripping them, but you turn on the TV and doesn't say a bad thing about anyone. It's sort of the old Warren Buffett, like praise privately and critique generally. Like that's how he handles the media. And Weiss did that for us. When I got in the NFL, my first year in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy was our head coach. Because of how that season went for me, I didn't get a ton of interaction with him. He was a really, really kind man. I still talk to him. We played Dallas last year and got to talk to him just real briefly. Nothing real notable happened in that year, but the whole organization up in Green Bay, which was run by Ted Thompson, John Schneider's now that place, Green Bay, was a front office like juggernaut. Ted Thompson, John Schneider, Reggie McKenzie, John Dorsey, Elliott Wolf. I mean, GMs and directors of pro personnel all across the NFL were in there back then. And the coaching staff, Ben McAdoo was our tight ends coach, now our OC here. James Campen was I think he was the assistant offensive line coach at the time, but the coaching staff was incredible. The front office was incredible.
Can you talk about Green Bay though a little bit before we move on?
Okay,
because that place is so unique. We played there in the COVID year. I didn't get to really experience it, but it's a walk. It's a museum. It is a must go. The fans, the interaction, the open door policy the fans have for other fans. No one owns the team really, other than the city, right? It has a whole. Like my buddy was there. He's like, bro, everything gets Brian Winslow. He's like, everything gets reinvested back into the building. It's very unique. Talk about that.
Well, you've hit on some of it. It's a one-of-a-kind organization. Everybody that's there has largely been kind of lifers, like in the organization. I mean, they've been raised up through it. There's very much like a Packers way of doing things. It's obviously incredibly well connected to the city. There is no owner, so all the money that they make, and they make a ton, it's all getting kind of reinvested back into the organization, either through charitable ventures or practice facility or stadium upgrades. It's a small town with an NFL franchise in it, so they do a lot to support that town, and obviously the fans and the town supports it really well. It's a really cool environment there. Just it's a fantastic organization, obviously buoyed by 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks for 30, I guess we're coming up on about 35 years now. And it's just a really special place. I always laugh. It's in for 10 months out of the year, the colors in Green Bay are green and yellow. But come December and January, the team colors are bright orange because everyone shows up to the game in their hunting gear, because that's the only stuff that'll keep them warm, is all that stuff. So, we go play there in late December and half the stadium is orange. And you're just like, what's going on? Well, they're all in their hunting gear because that's just how that town operates. One of my best friends still's kicking for them, Mason Crosby. He's been there forever. They really treat the people that have been through that organization really well. And when I go back, there's so many people that still, this was 15 years ago. I go back, there's still people that know me, and I'm treated with the utmost respect just because I played there for 1 year. If anyone ever gets the opportunity to see the little 7 or 8 minute documentary they did with our offensive line coach, James Campen and Aaron Rodgers. Coach Campen played for the Packers, coached for the Packers. And it's the same thing. Like, he has such incredible reverence for that place, and that city and that team still honor him. Even at the time he was with the Texans, even as a visitor, like, it's a really cool, it's as close to college football in the pros as any place. Fourth quarter, they're singing "Roll Out the Barrel," and you can't help but feel like as a road player, like, I'm like kind of singing the songs along with the fans, because they get ingrained into your soul, even in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's a tremendous place. I appreciate you diving into it a little bit. I remember coming out of the tunnel, and you can't even walk shoulder to shoulder. The tunnel's so skinny. That's my favorite picture of us running out to the field. They got a picture from behind us. You can see a little bit of the field, but you just got everyone kind of crammed in there. It's a great shot. Okay. Then you get traded to Carolina. I've ripped through the coaches for us in Carolina and share some good words about them.
John Foxy, he was the ultimate. He was the mayor of Charlotte. He just had a really cool style about him. All of my favorite NFL coaches sayings come from him. It is what it is. Punt's not a bad play. The other team practices too. My all-time favorite was, I was maybe a first or second year here. It would have been one of those 2 years. And he was trying to talk about how simple football is at its core. And he stand up in front of the whole team and goes, guys, football's easy. It's just PE majors coaching PE majors. And I looked around and I was kind of like, and everyone's kind of like nodding their head like, yep, that's all this is. He just had a way of kind of boiling it down to its simplest form. Foxy's the best. He would come into our room all the time, the specialist room, and he would just hold court for like 15, 20 minutes. Nobody else could get a word in. And then he'd just kind of knock on the door and say, all right, guys, get back to work. It's like that was just his way and style of doing things. In fact, our special teams coach my second year, Jeff Rogers, who's now the special teams coach with the Cardinals, used to have John Casey go and talk to John Fox during special teams, because Foxy would get so bored with special teams. There wasn't enough action for him. He had to distract Foxy with a conversation so that he wouldn't blow the whistle to move on to the next period. Like, he just tons of energy, wanted to bounce around. So Foxy was a special, special man to me. Followed that by 9 years with Ron Rivera. Coach Rivera's, one of the very best. He's a really special man. We had a great coaching staff. Ron was just, he played for 9 years. He coached for so long. One of the cool parts about that team and that group was his leadership style was not one where he had to get all the attention. He had his way or the highway. Like, we had an unbelievable coaching staff. Sean McDermott, Steve Wilkes, Mike Shula, John Matsko, kind of made up the core of that staff for a long time. And he really disseminated a lot of power to the coaching staff. And then the veterans, it was Luke Kuechly and Ryan Khalil and Jordan Gross and Thomas Davis and Julius Peppers. You had all these guys. And so he really kind of unleashed the power of the locker room and the coaching staff amongst all the players. That was really special. Kind of see his leadership style. Coach Rule, you've known Coach for probably close to a decade now. One of the things that I really appreciated about him and his coaching style was how he would really bring a lot of things back to personal life. I felt like he was always trying to coach the person as well as the player. The power of perseverance and getting, we always say 1% better, just constant improvement, really digging into all the things that can really allow you to grow as a man and grow as a person in whatever venture you have. And he used football as the way to sort of coach the individual, which I think is really special. And then, right now we're, with Steve Wilkes. I've known Steve since he was Coach Wilkes when I was 18 years old. It was 2004 at Notre Dame. He's the same guy today that he was in 2004. He's kind, he's intimidating, he's serious. He looks straight out of a Denzel Washington movie. His manner, he's the exact same guy 18 years ago. And he's just a special person because as you've now seen here with him being kind of at the front of the room for the last 2 months, he's so focused. He's so on top of things. He leads men really well, and he's a great man. Comes from a great family. His wife Marcy, like they've been such an impactful people in our lives for 2 decades. So it's kind of cool to see that come full circle. So I've played for a lot of great head coach, position coaches. It's one of the true blessings of a long career as you get to meet so many of these people.
Awesome stuff. Appreciate you coming on, JJ, as always. Some fantastic, awesome banter, some great guests, and really just, I think the world of you as a leader, as a player, as a mentor. We become friends. You've joined our show a bunch. I can't thank you enough. Last one for me.
Okay.
The big question: how much longer are you going to do this thing?
I would really like to play for 4 or 5 more years. So we talked about at the beginning of the show. I've kind of taken it game by game, year by year, my entire career, and nothing has changed. As you get a little bit further on, I think you have to start making some decisions about how you want to approach each year in order to accomplish your goals. When I was 23, I was like, I just want to survive a game. I just want to play one more year. You're 36. It's like, okay, I've got to really plan out how I'm going to take care of my body, how I'm going to transform to squeeze everything else out, because nobody's going to give me credit for, well, he's 36, so he doesn't have to be as good. Like, no one's going to give you that leeway in the NFL. So you've got to find ways to keep squeezing more and more out. And that becomes kind of fun to learn more about the game. So this year, the last couple of years has really kind of rejuvenated the love of learning for me. And so to be able to say, hey, how do I get to where I want to be at 40 has become the new sort of passion in terms of learning and growing as a football player. And so I'd like to play 4 or 5 more years. Somebody suggested I could maybe do it for 10 more. And I said, once you get past 40, you sort of have to hand the baton off to your wife, and she gets a much larger say in all the decision making when it comes to your career. Once you're past 40 and all the kids are in school, like at that point, we're talking a little bit. It's even more of a group effort than it already is, and it's my wife has been an incredible companion in all of this. I mean, we make every decision together. And so, 15 years, you can't do it without a tremendous amount of support and teamwork. She's helped me with every contract negotiation, every decision. And, sometimes it's like, I can't make this decision. I need you to do it. And she's always willing to step in that gap when that stuff's come up too. So it's a team journey, and there's 6 of us on this path, and with the kids and Laura, it's been a really special journey.
That's awesome. I know your family's heavily involved in everything you do. What a great, sounding board. I'm sure your wife is. My wife is. It is a team thing to do what we do. There's a lot of sacrificing that a lot of people don't see from the outside. And people always say that. People don't understand. I don't have beef with that. It's all good. Like, it's okay. Yeah. This is our job. I don't understand what other people do for their job either and their struggle. But I know this struggle is a lot on significant others, especially for undrafted guys, especially for, you have some solidarity now. You still live day to day. I remember, what was it one year? You're like, okay, we're finally going to buy a house now. When was that?
Probably, I think it was like years 5 or 6.
So 5 years into your job, folks, imagine moving somewhere and saying, okay, we're not going to buy a house I could play here for 5 or 6 years. I could work for 6 years here. We're not going to even rent or buy. We're just going to do short-term leases. week to week, month to month, most of the time. That's how I've done it.
Yep.
For 6 years, and then I'm going to move into a house. This is not a normal gig.
Yeah, this is a little bit different. It's there's guys on our team, like stalwarts on our team, that live in a hotel because they know they're one game away from being on the street again. So it's not for the faint of heart, but you'd certainly learn and get trained up really well by veterans in the locker room. I certainly was, and I hope to kind of pass that along because it's a fun profession. It's a blast. It's just there's a lot of highs and lows, and we're all trying to win a Super Bowl, but we're all also trying to get to the off season because the off season is the best part of the season.
I have no comment on that, JJ. I have no. We're all trying to get to year 3 to be credited.
Yep, year 3 to get the pension, and then to the off season. There's all these little milestones along the way. It's a game. It's 3 games. It's 1 year. It's 3 years. It's fun. You find all these little ways to kind of find the game inside the game to keep you motivated.
That's great stuff. 222 games coming to you soon. The great JJ Jansen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Colin.